Do you want to see a magic trick? Hi and welcome to the Ruby Tuesday. My name's Ruben. Let's talk about Joker Folie, Deux. Folie à deux.
Marie! The baguettes! Hurry up!
So here's the thing. This movie doesn't work. And it's not even close to the level of the original Joker from 2019. Why? Well, let's get into that. First off, I know what some of you are thinking. This was going to be a big, bold step. Joaquin Phoenix is back, and we've got Lady Gaga stepping in as Harley Quinn. On paper, it sounds like a winning formula. But in execution, it's a bit of a mess. And that's not the good kind of mess you'd expect from a Joker movie. It's like they threw everything into the blender without thinking about what the mess would actually look like when pouring it into a cinematic glass. If you've seen the original, and I presume you have if you're watching this review, Joaquin Phoenix as Arthur Fleck was a deeply damaged, tragic character. It was a raw, gritty, and painfully real portrayal. It didn't feel like a comic book movie. It felt like a psychological thriller about a man descending into madness. But here, Phoenix is trying to create that same magic, but it just doesn't land the same way. I'm not saying Joaquin Phoenix is bad. I mean, is he ever bad, really? Even if the film he is in is bad, his performances is always good. But you can only watch someone lose their mind for so long before it becomes repetitive. And in Folie à deux, it feels like we've seen all of this before, just without the raw intensity of the original. It's like they were trying to push Arthur's madness further, but instead of building on the foundation that they already had, they just start muddling it. The character arc feels stagnant, like it's going in circles or even backwards. And of course, we have to talk about Lady Gaga as Harley Quinn. When it was announced that she was taking on this role, I had mixed feelings. She's obviously got that theatricality for it. I mean, her whole personality screams larger than life. And that's what Harley Quinn is. But this version of Harley is trying to be something it's not. Harley Quinn has always been an unpredictable, chaotic, but also enduring in a strange way. You kind of love her for how mad she is. And Gaga is trying, but it doesn't quite click. She doesn't bring the same charisma to Harley that Margot Robbie did in Suicide Squad and Birds of Prey. Robbie's Quinn was chaotic, colorful, and brought this kind of manic energy that lit up the screen. Gaga's version feels muted. There's a restraint there, which is the exact opposite of what we expect from a Harley character. Gaga's performance feels like she's trying to give it more depth, but in doing so, it loses that fun, unhinged spark. And that's the problem with the whole film. It takes itself way too seriously. I mean, thematically, that is accurate to the formula that they created with the first film. But this sequel feels more like a prequel because our characters feel like they're going backwards rather than forwards. The Joker we got at the end of the journey in the first film is not the Joker we get in this film. And even though this is Harley's introduction into the alternate timeline of this DC-verse film, they don't feel right. And one of the reasons for this is because of the music, which is the last thing I was expecting going into this movie in particular. So let's talk about it. When I first heard that this was going to be part musical, I was intrigued and thought, okay, they're going to take a creative risk. I love it when filmmakers take risks. But I really hate to say it, the musical parts of this movie don't add anything of substance. They feel out of place, which is what I was worried they were going to, rather than it feeling like it's adding to the story. Like they don't know what they want this film to be. Are we watching a psychological drama or a Broadway show? Because the tonal shifts are jarring. 1 minute, Arthur is spiraling into madness, and the next we're watching an over-the-top choreographed number that feels like it's pulled from a dream sequence, but not in an unsettling, disoriented way. Instead, it's just bizarre, and it's not the way that Joker movies are supposed to be, or at least what they've already established. I'm not against musicals, don't get me wrong. If anything, a twisted, dark musical could have worked if they had leaned into it fully. But here it feels half-baked. The music doesn't serve the story, it distracts from it. It feels like the filmmakers wanted to do something avant-garde, but didn't fully commit to it, and as a result, it's a mishmash that doesn't belong. Pulled me right out of the experience every time there was a new musical number. The cinematography. Visually, Joker Folie à deux looks good. It's a well-shot film. But here's the thing, it doesn't have that same sort of grit, that same sort of texture that made the first one so immersive. In Joker 2019, Gotham felt alive. The city was grimy, oppressive, suffocating. You felt like you were stuck there with Arthur, slowly losing it alongside with him. In the sequel, the city is there, but it feels more like a backdrop, not a character in of itself. The lighting is cleaner and the shots are more polished, and it loses that kind of raw edge that made the first film so compelling. appealing. It's almost like they wanted to make the sequel look prettier. But that's not what Joker is about. Joker isn't supposed to be pretty. Joker is supposed to make you feel uncomfortable, make you feel like the walls are closing in on you. And here, it just feels safe, which is such a strange thing to be saying about this movie. Even the use of color, which you'd think would pop more with the musical elements, falls flat. And when we're talking about the themes, they overcomplicated what worked. The first Joker worked because it was simple. It was about one man's descent into madness in a broken society. It touched on mental illness, alienation, and violence in a way that felt real. But in this, they tried to make it bigger, broader, and more abstract, and in doing so, they lose the heart of what made it, the original, so special. The film is trying to say much, but in the end, it doesn't say anything. It's about madness, sure, but it's also obsessed with its own symbolism and themes that it forgets to tell a coherent, engaging story. The relationships between Arthur and Harley should have been an emotional core of the film, but it's lost in the noise. Their dynamic is supposed to be twisted, dark, and tragic, but here it just feels forced. Lady Gaga's performance on screen with Bradley Cooper,
so hardcore.
That me?
That's you.
dripped with chemistry. It was a flawed, broken relationship that was a joy to watch. This isn't that.
Tired trying to fill that void.
And when going into a Joker movie, your thought processes will ultimately think about other Jokers and Harley Quinns. I already mentioned Margot Robbie's Harley, who brought so much energy and nuance to her role. She owned it. Even if the movies weren't great that she was in, she brought a balance of danger and charm that made her Harley work. And Joaquin Phoenix's Joker in the first one was incredible. But we've also had Heath Ledger, who brought an anarchic, chaotic energy to the character. Ledger's Joker was unpredictable in the best way, and he felt like a genuine threat. Phoenix's Joker in the first film was more tragic, more grounded, but here it's like they didn't know which direction to go with him. And let's not forget about Jared Leto's version. Leto's Joker was divisive, to say the least, but I'll give him this: he made some choices. He tried to do something different. In Folie, Deux, it feels like they're stuck between what Phoenix did before and what they think the audience wants. And that just doesn't work. So my conclusion is, it's a messy sequel that doesn't land. It's a film that's trying to do too much and ends up doing very little. The acting is solid, but the characters feel stuck. The musical numbers are ambitious, but they don't fit. The cinematography is polished, but it's lost its grit. And the themes, they're overcomplicated, abstract, and ultimately empty. I get that we're trying to do something bigger, something more ambitious, but sometimes less is more. The original Joker worked because it was focused, simple, and raw. Folie Deux is trying so hard to be everything, and in doing so, it loses the very thing that made Joker so special. In the end, it's a sequel that feels unnecessary, a film that doesn't know what it wants to be, and the story's already been told better in the first film. As someone who has worked in film and entertainment industry for many years, could I have done better? No, probably not. But the problem is, they have already done better, loads better, so all I can be is non-biased as possible. It's not terrible by any means, but it falls flat when you balance the sequel on the original. Let me know your thoughts. Did you love it? Am I wrong? Tell me why in the comments. I'm more than willing to have my mind changed. I am open to it. I have done so in the past. Art is subjective to everything. The person, the day, the time, the weather, everything influences art. But thanks so much for watching and being a part of the Ruby Tuesday. Please do comment. I'd love to hear your thoughts. Subscribe if you want more reviews like this. If you thought it was entertaining or informative, perhaps share it around. Which Joker is the best Joker of all the Jokers? Live action, animation, fan movies? Let me know. But remember, until next time, live long and Tuesday.